So I got some new art recently, because we're nothing if not classy on this channel. And also because I don't have any pictures on my walls and my friends make fun of me every time they come over, so I needed to fix that. This first one is a watercolor painting that was done by somebody in my family who actually used to be a cartoonist for a living, and I asked him to draw me something in his style of animation, and he made me this beautiful piece. I love everything about it. I've been keeping it sandwiched between these cardboards so that it wouldn't get damaged while I get around to hanging it up, and now is finally the time. The second one I actually got from a YouTuber. I don't follow a lot of artists on here, but the algorithm gods threw this guy's video on my timeline a few months ago, and I haven't been able to look away since. His stuff is stunning, so when I saw that he was selling posters of 2 of his pieces, I decided to grab one. I'll throw the link to his channel in my description in case anyone is curious to see his work. I highly recommend it. I watch his videos when I've had a stressful day and just want to relax. It's just definitely worth checking out if it sounds like something that you're interested in. And also, come on, just look at this use of color and attention to detail. Don't you love it? I want both of these pictures on my walls, which means that I'm going to need frames for them. They both have really odd dimensions, so instead of looking for frames that would fit them, I'm going to make them myself. And that way I get to use up some of the many scraps that I have left, and I get to save some money in the process. So 2 for 2. My friend was nice enough to let me use some of his walnut scraps that he had left over, so I will be using that as my material. Now, instead of going through my build process on this video like I usually do, I wanted to instead talk about something that's been happening lately that affects small makers and people who buy from them. I figured this was a somewhat important thing to shine a spotlight on, especially with the holidays around the corner. I know that people like to go and buy custom and unique gifts around this time, so I wanted to make sure that if this is something that you do, you don't end up getting ripped off in the process. Because I know you work hard for your money. As most of you probably know, in the last decade or so, Etsy made a name for itself as a place where small makers can go and sell their creations without having to put too much effort into setting up the website or even promoting their brand. It was just a super easy way for them to get started in their business with less upfront cost because the platform and the search algorithm were already set up. So the creators could just focus on what they did best, which is make things. This was great for both the makers and the people who wanted to buy from them, because now they didn't have to search through the entire internet to find unique things. They could just find it in this one-stop shop. It was a great platform. For a while. But, as with all things, once it starts getting good for those that are putting in the effort, it'll start catching the attention of the people who want to reap the benefits without having to put in any of the work. I think this effect has been more noticeable with YouTube's content farms, where a huge chunk of videos is AI generated and read off by a very realistic sounding bot, but that's a rant for another day. I think that the Etsy scams have been flying under the radar way more because they're a lot harder to spot. The problem that I'm talking about is scammers posting as small makers and listing cheap junk that they bought off of fast fashion sites and calling them artisanal and handmade. They do this by buying in bulk from stores like Shein, Temu, AliExpress, and even Amazon and Walmart, and then marking the items up like 100 times the original price and selling them as though they made them. And this happens way more than you think. And I know. This is a bold accusation to make, but stay with me here. I have proof. When I first started looking for examples for this video, I hoped that I would come across like 4 or 5 during my quick 10-minute search, but I was disappointed. Because I found way more than that. Take a look at this first one. This is an Etsy listing for a wooden door frame ornament. It's a cute little sleeping bear. It's listed as handmade and sells for $20. And what is this? An identical listing on AliExpress, and it costs $6. The person that's passing this off as handmade couldn't be even bothered to take their own picture. They are exactly identical. But don't believe me? Let's take a look at another one. What about this? A beautiful little ear cuff of a kitten, also listed as handmade. $14, which is a fair price for a custom-made piece, but Again, look at this. $2 on Shein? Exactly the same thing. And again, couldn't even be bothered to take their own picture. Let's do another supposedly handmade ear cuff. They look nice. $14. And shocker. An identical item on another website, and it costs less than $2. If these people were wholesalers, this wouldn't be a problem. Wholesaling is a legitimate business. It's when you buy from a place where you can only buy in bulk, and so you pay that upfront cost for many items, and then you resell them individually to customers who would not be able to buy them individually from the wholesaler. They can only buy in bulk. What's happening here is something different. They are, first off, lying about the items being handmade, and they are buying them from sites where you yourself could just go buy one individually. You don't have to buy wholesale. This is a scam. There are so many reasons why this gets my goat. And I'm only using that expression because this actually gets me pretty angry and I want to swear, but then YouTube would restrict my video and I don't want to do that. So I guess I'll have to stick to expressions that make me sound like I'm 80. But this is so upsetting because people who shop on Etsy are the ones that want to support small makers who spend time and effort into honing their skills. They want to put their money where they think it matters, in the hands of someone skilled and hopefully more ethical than the companies who have been exposed for using unethical labor practices and even in some cases using forced labor to produce their products. Not only that, but there's a huge difference in quality between these two. Handmade things that are made by people who know their craft will last years longer than anything you can get off of these fast fashion sites. Cheaply made stuff is cheap. It doesn't last. So imagine if you're a buyer and you unknowingly get scammed a few times by these fake small makers. If you pay a higher price but receive junk products, how many times before you stop trusting small makers altogether? This type of scamming will slowly move people away from supporting these small makers entirely. And let's not even talk about the health issues. There are articles from the EU and Canadian authorities warning consumers of dangerous levels of lead that have been found in these fast fashion items because they use very cheap paint on all of their things in order to cut costs, even if the cost is your health. This is paint that no self-respecting small maker that cares about their business would ever use. As far as I'm concerned, this entire issue goes way deeper than just tricking someone into paying more for an item. This is why I'm making a whole video about this, because I don't see this as some victimless crime where what you don't know won't hurt you. Because it does hurt. And I'll argue that it hurts everyone, even the people who may not realize that they've been scammed. As more and more people buy these shitty products for an artisanal price, they will start to feel like buying small is just not worth it, not realizing that they're being shilled cheap junk. And on the flip side, real small makers will continue to get their prices undercut until they finally get pushed out and decide it's not even worth it to sell their products anymore. This will inevitably cause Etsy to become a fast fashion site with a premium sticker price. It's already happening. And this is literally the opposite of why Etsy became so big in the first place. And this is really unfortunate to watch unfold. While I am technically a small maker, I mostly make things for either myself or as gifts for my friends, so I don't actually sell anything. I'm not really affected by this. But a lot of my shopmates are. And I see them here on a lot of days, missing sleep, passionately working on improving their process and upping their skills, rejecting pieces that are, in my eyes, absolutely perfect, but to them it's still not good enough because they think they still need to do better and they don't want to give their customers anything other than a piece that they're going to love. And on the other end, a customer sees all this and realizes that they could technically go to IKEA or Walmart and get something for way cheaper, but they appreciate the passion and originality behind each piece and the craftsmanship that it took to make it with their two hands. And they know that even though it'll cost more money up front, that what they're paying for is the fair exchange for someone's efforts and materials, and that in return they'll get something that is quality and will last for years, possibly generations longer than anything that was mass-produced. And as this is all happening, some asshole watching from the sidelines sees this and says, I can screw over both of these people. And that's honestly frustrating to see. But don't worry, I'm not just here to rant and point out problems with no solution. You can figure out how to spot these fake makers if you just know how to look. We can beat them. We have the technology. That technology being the Google Lens. Let me show you how. I'll use this cute little fox as an example. Etsy already has a built-in button for searching in their app, but that one will only search through other Etsy listings, and we don't want that. We want to search outside of Etsy. So what I do is I take a screenshot of this, and then I go to my screenshot folder, and then I click on the picture. And then when I click on the picture, I have this little icon at the bottom. I click it, and just like magic, I'll find every single image that resembles that one that I'm searching for. And oof, it looks like there are quite a few of these floating around. AliExpress, Alibaba, both are very well known for low quality, cheaply made items. And also looks like it appears on a few other sites that I've never heard of. Let's check here and see if the listing is similar. And bam, it's exactly the same for a fraction of the price. I can't even excuse this as the person potentially getting inspired by what they saw here and then deciding to make it by hand, because if you look at the texture on this thing, where the wood is shaped, it is exactly the same in the Etsy listing and here. Someone who was inspired by a piece wouldn't put this much effort into replicating each exact stroke and cut precisely. They bought this for $2 and are reselling it for damn near $20. Shameless. And this person didn't even make it easy for me to find. He actually took his own picture of the cheap item, which is more than most of the ones that I've shown so far have done, because God forbid they put in some effort. But despite that, Google Lens was still able to sniff it out. So that's super promising for us. It means that we won't be easy to trick, even with different pictures. Now, I just want to add this tidbit in here that you should keep in mind. Just because you see an item sold somewhere else outside of Etsy doesn't necessarily mean that that seller is a scammer. There are a lot of makers that sell their products on both their own websites, on Amazon, and also on Etsy. The way that you'll know that they're legit in all three places is by looking at the price. If the price is off by only 1 or 2%, then it could be just a seller adjusting for the margins that each site takes from their sellers. What you're looking for is a huge price difference. Like, for example, this guy, who clearly stole this skull planter from Amazon and then marked it up to more than double the price and is selling it off as his own. My rule is, if I see the same item posted somewhere else for a fraction of the price, then I'm just gonna assume you're trying to scam me. And for anyone wondering, the reason I'm blurring out the names of these shops is because the name doesn't matter. My goal here isn't to sick some internet mob on these handful of people, because this is such a widespread problem that there are literally thousands of other ones doing the exact same thing. So me dragging just 10 specific ones through the mud would miss the entire point of what I'm trying to say. My goal here is to let you know that this is something that's happening so that you can avoid it happening to you. And then you can also spread the word and stop others around you from getting scammed. I really just want to spread awareness. Anyways, that is the end of my rant. And almost an end of my frame build. The funny thing here is I decided to talk about my Etsy frustrations in this video because I assumed that building a frame was very straightforward and that it wouldn't be interesting to talk about the whole process. This was the first frame that I ever made, and let me tell you, it's simple, but it's not easy. I, as always, made more than a few mistakes. Like, I cut my miters in the wrong direction. The acrylic that I used for the glaze, oh my god, it was from a scrap piece that we got from a shop that threw it out after it closed down. So it was covered in scratches. So I had to learn how to buff those out, and sanding down plastic is a whole different skill that I did not have. All in all, I was wrong, and it would have been very interesting to talk about. So having said that, I ran out of material after this one frame and have to dig around a bit more to find extras that I can use for the other picture. My question to you is, do I make a video and actually walk through the process for this next one? Or is it too redundant to have two frame making videos so close to each other, even though I'll be talking about different things in them? Let me know, because I don't want to bore anyone. So if you're done with frames for now, I'll hold off on it and just make it off screen and maybe just show the final product in the community post. Let me know. But anyways, that's about it for today. Thanks for sticking with me while I complained about the internet, and good luck doing all your holiday shopping. I really hope that my little rant helped you out. See you next time. Bye.